President Trump said something this past week which sheds light on the pressure he is under in his office. It concerned when to release our country back to work. Each day we are shut down, the deeper the hit our economy takes, and the more people are out of work. Yet to move too soon might throw the nation back into a health crisis. As he said, it's the most difficult decision he will ever make. Pray for him. You may love him, you may not, but pray for him. I pray for him daily, along with his staff, and especially those around him, which I know are believers. I pray for wisdom and guidance. The enormity of his decision caused me to think about guidance. I love history, and so does Nick. We especially love the period of the Civil War. When I think about that war, coupled with World War I and World War II, I realize our nation has survived some big challenges. Over the years, we have traveled to many Civil War historical sites, and what often makes the visit especially engaging and memorable is who you have as a guide. We learned long ago, for instance, that if you go to Gettysburg, hire the personal guide to drive you in your own car throughout the battlefield. Their knowledge and insight to stories and details will make it worth the extra few dollars you spend. Your guide can make the difference. God has always provided guides for his people. When he led the Hebrews out of Egypt, he gave them Moses. Unfortunately, the people complained about God's guide, and they complained about God himself, so they never reached the promised land. Here's a couple of lessons for us all. Lesson 1. If you don't follow your guide, they're useless to you. Lesson 2. If you don't follow your guide, you will never arrive at your desired destination. Now, on Wednesday night prayer meetings, I have been walking through the book of Hebrews. There's a lot there, so it's been a long journey. I'm also launching a new series this week entitled Hold On, and it's based in Hebrews. So I've been spending a little time in this book. When the Jewish believers that the Hebrew writer was addressing in the book of Hebrews began to get weak-kneed in their faith due to persecution and pressure, he reminded them of their forefathers. Don't follow your forefathers. Their disobedience caused them to miss their destination. They didn't follow their guide, Moses. The forefathers were the complainers I just talked about. So the Hebrew writer says, keep the faith. God will guide you where you need to be. Now the good news is that God has left nothing undone. Jesus, in his last moments with his disciples, implored them to listen to him as he spoke to them about the Holy Spirit. He referred to him as their advocate. Jesus said, there is so much more I want to tell you, but you can't bear it now. When the Spirit of truth comes, he will guide you into all truth. God has given us a guide to follow, his Spirit. The Apostle Paul gives instruction to us to follow him. He writes, for all who are led by the Spirit of God are children of God. Furthermore, he says, and the Holy Spirit helps us in our distress, for we don't even know what we should pray for, nor how we should pray, but the Holy Spirit prays for us with groanings that cannot be expressed in words. And the Father who knows all hearts knows what the Spirit is saying, for the Spirit pleads for us believers in harmony with God's own will. You see, guides know the way. I remember a very generous guide we had once at Gettysburg. On that particular trip, I was with my two friends, Mark Dill and Mark Bennett, who I affectionately call the Marx brothers. Our guide that day was a retired Lutheran minister who had gone to the seminary at the Lutheran Seminary there in Gettysburg, the same seminary that was a central part of the battle on the very first day of conflict. He stayed in Gettysburg after graduating from seminary and pastored the local Lutheran church there. And he became a student of the battle while living there all those years. And since he had retired, he was giving tours as a guide. Now, after 3 hours of guiding us around the battlefield and answering our many, many questions, our time was up. And I remember he turned to us and said, "You fellas have had a lot of good questions, and you really seem to know your stuff. I know our time is up, but if you want to continue, I'll take you to a few places that few people get to go. No charge. I've just enjoyed my time with you." So we were all in. We engaged with our guide, and he revealed a few things that we had never seen nor read about, things that he and only a few knew. It was special, memorable, and enlightening. Here's another lesson. Lesson 3. Stay engaged with your guide. He will bless you in unexpected ways. God has provided us with himself, his very Spirit. We all need guidance. Let's stay engaged with our guide, the Holy Spirit.